It just won off. Die roll probably going to be pretty important for Marshall Arthurs, as for his deck, for this matchup and basically every other matchup, almost a strict racing scenario.
Yeah, notably, Marshall Arthurs is also the Mardu Powermancer pilot from a few months ago who actually, I believe, went 17-0-1 in an open, just like a straight-up clean sweep. They were one of the first players to play Blood Moon in the main deck and popularize that build. They continued to have success on the SCG Tour and elsewhere.
Yeah, he crushed it with Mardu Pyromancer. He's cast a few Bedlam Revelers in his time.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me to see him playing the version of Arclight Phoenix that is able to play Bedlam Reveler. That card is right in his wheelhouse.
Right. Yeah, that's a card that is so good when it's good. You have to jump through some hoops to put it in your deck, but the payoff is very real. Looks like there was a mulligan for Arthurs. Resolving a scry right now.
Yeah, and conferring with teammates, which you are encouraged to do really at these team tournaments. One of the better parts of it is, hey, friendo, how's this hand look? You think it's good enough? And they'll assess the matchup and give you their best impression. Or if they're like me, they'll tell you to make your own decision. Let me play my game.
Right, I'm busy over here.
Yeah, come on.
Arthurs goes.
You never played your deck? You never played your deck before? Come on.
We came here to play our own matches.
It's turn one. You have two options.
Scry to the bottom, Arthurs does. Leads off basic mountain. No Monastery Swift Spear to start things off. It's actually playing a build that also plays 3 Soul Scar Mage, going a little heavier on this prowess strategy, but a miss on turn 1 entirely.
Yeah, I've seen players kind of waffle on whether they should play Swift Spear or Soul Scar Mage. This is actually the first iteration I've seen that played both. I think just going lower to the ground makes a lot of sense, just rewarding you for playing a lot of these cheap instants and sorceries, doing a lot of damage.
Right. And prowess is really a mechanic that rewards you. The more creatures with prowess you control, the more you're getting out of every spell that you cast.
Right.
So we're going to back up a little bit here. Looks like we do have a judge call. You see a card to the side for Whitehouse there. Sideboarding issue. We'll get that resolved. Obviously, his play has not started yet, so I think it's the card that he drew for turn. But we'll let the judges do their thing. We're going to bounce in, though. We got 2 other matches happening. We'll check in on Zach Kiihne versus Ben Wienburg, Storm versus Mono Red Phoenix. Another strict racing situation that I believe that the Phoenix deck might be a bit behind on. And whoo, all right.
Wow.
Talking about a bit behind, this is 6 Goblins versus a Monastery Swift Spear.
Yeah, this looks like a turn 2 double ritual, probably Manamorphose or something like that, into empty the Warrens for 6 tokens. That's a pretty good start if you ask me.
And it looks like Wienburg is in a no second land situation. His second turn was a Faithless Looting. Discarded a maximized velocity in an Arclight Phoenix that can be powerful if you hit your land drops, and that's just not what's happening here.
Yeah, you really want to hit like your first 2 or 3 lands from this Mono Red Phoenix deck. That way you can utilize those cheaper spells and cast multiple in a single turn. Being stuck on 1 mana, you can still cast a decent amount of your interaction via Lightning Bolt and whatnot, but those are the type of cards that are going to be worthwhile in this scenario.
Yep. Kiihne going back to work, starting off with a sleight of hand, till shock for his Steam Vents, Lightning Bolts down to the Electromancer, attack with his 6 Goblins, so looks like Kiihne's going to be at 15. This should bump Wienburg to 14.
All right, Faithless Looting here is definitely what he needs to get started. Needs to find a land, a 1-mana spell, and probably a gut shot, something like that, if he wants to return Arclight Phoenix to the battlefield this turn. However, that might not necessarily be a priority. I don't really know how Wienburg gets out of the situation other than just being as aggressive as possible. He can usually afford right here to take 2 more hits from these Goblins outside of a potential Grape Shot.
Yeah, it is helpful for Wienburg that he's playing a 17-mountain mana base. He will not be taking 2 off of a shock land. Right. So the 6 Goblins need a little bit of help to clear it in 3 turns. But as we've been talking about, Wienburg does need to find some good hits here. I believe he has found his 2nd mountain, so he's at least checked that box.
Yeah, but for 1 mana, it's very difficult to play 2 spells. Usually need the Gut Shot in this scenario.
Right, Gut Shot here or start on Manamorphose.
Right. Even still, getting through all these tokens is going to be really difficult. I actually discarded a Gut Shot.
And a Manamorphose.
Interesting.
And here's Soulscar Mage. It is a 1-2 blocker for these goblins. Though Kiihne doesn't look like he's going to entertain that proposition. Here's Baral, Chief of Compliance. There's a Grape Shot. Here's an attack for 6. Wienburg's down to 8.
Huh. Okay. So a lot of damage coming through here. It looks like Wienburg actually has enough stuff to do right now, though, to not only return Phoenix, but he might be able to put something like a Bedlam Reveler onto the battlefield and maybe kill the Baral Chief of Compliance, which would put him effectively at like 4 life or so, maybe around 6, depending on how blocking and removal goes. But with Desperate Ritual in hand, a Manamorphose to start, bringing back the Arclight Phoenix is going to be very easy this turn.
Right. So there is that Manamorphose. Draw a card off that. Cast some of these red rituals, I assume, from here. There's Desperate Ritual, up to 3 mana in the pool.
Yep. Another Desperate Ritual put up to 4. Still hasn't played a land yet if he should draw one.
Kiihne's keeping track of Storm. We hit the 3 for our Phoenix.
Thanks, buddy. All right. Looks like 2 copies of Bedlam Reveler in hand. Going to cast this Soulscar Mage into another Bedlam Reveler. Oh, it's a Fiery Temper. Ooh, that picture looks similar. All right.
Yeah, so that's exactly enough mana. He gets to cast the Madness on that, take care of the Brawl, and now draw 3 cards. 2 blockers online for the Goblins.
Yeah, and again, hasn't played the land. Could potentially go Mountain, maximize Velocity on the Bedlam Reveler. Returning the Arclight Phoenix threatens a lot of damage.
Yeah, it would be excellent if he found another Phoenix here. So looks like Tormenting Voice is one of the holdings. Nothing too exciting picked up.
Yeah, my guess is going to be a maximized velocity here, targeting Bedlam Reveler, discarding this Tormenting Voice and attacking for 5 on the Bedlam Reveler plus 3 from the Phoenix. 8-point swing, putting Kiihne to 7 and maybe pumping the brakes on those Goblins a bit thanks to that other Soulscar Mage as a blocker.
On the back tables, Chris Turnbull on Dredge has won Game 1 against Claire Bigelow on the Hexproof deck.
Yeah, and we will be hopefully bringing you that match via
time-shifted technology.
Time-shifted technology here after the round has concluded.
All right, so Wienburg is going to discard Tormenting Voice to maximize velocity on the Reveler. Arclight Phoenix comes back. The Reveler is attacking, so it's +2 off of the velocity, +1 plus the prowess trigger. And the Bedlam Reveler saw the Fiery Temper cast as well.
Yeah, here comes Baral, Chief of Compliance from Kiihne. Doesn't really have a whole lot of resources. Used a lot of his Grape Shots, his Lightning Bolts, to take care of these blockers so the 6 Goblins could punch through. But right now looking like he's in a spot where it might need to play a little bit of defense.
Right. Kiihne is on 6 after that last hit, that Arclight Phoenix. That's going to connect for 3. Not a lot he can do about that.
Yeah.
So we'll start with Baral, but he needs a pretty nice turn here. They'll attack with his Goblins. One's blocked by Soulscar Mage. Wienburg will drop to 3.
Looks like if Wienburg has a removal spell here for this Baral, might just steal this game. Alternatively, could just play 2 Instant Sorceries, and that's enough.
And
that
maximize velocity on the Soulscar Mage.
Wow, what a comeback.
Nothing but lethal attackers. Any combination of 2 closes it. Kiihne sees it. Wienburg takes Game 1.
Yeah, and that's pretty bad news for Kiihne's team. Based on how the judge call is going, my guess is that Whitehouse might end up with a game loss for his sideboarding mishap, unfortunately for them. But it's not over yet. They still have 2 sideboard games to play. Kiihne also has 2 sideboard games to play. Let's see how this goes.
Yeah, we'll see what Kiihne can do to maybe increase his odds in the matchup here. His sideboard is 2 Abrades, 4 pieces of the puzzle, a Wipe Away, 2 Empty the Warrens, an Ignite Memories, an Echoing Truth, 2 Blood Moons, and 2 Lightning Bolts.
Okay, Blood Moon probably coming in against the 17 Mountain deck.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Not the best spot for it.
No,
not the best spot for it.
Not quite. I think Kiihne's game plan after sideboard is just to speed up. The mono-red version of the deck doesn't have a whole lot in the way of interaction. And I think you just want to be like Lightning Bolt to take care of some of the one-drop creatures. Empty the Warrens is quite good in the matchup, playing both defense and offense. And then I'm not 100% on a Braid. I might want to bring in 1. It just depends on what Kiihne wants to take out of the deck. But I don't think this is a pieces of the puzzle matchup. You want to bring a piece of the puzzle when your opponent is trying to trade 1 for 1 against you. But this mono-red deck has no interest in trading, no interest in playing slow or fair.
Yeah, and on Kiihne's side, a consideration for the Storm deck is usually what your opponent's doing as far as graveyard interaction.
Right.
For Mono Red Phoenix on Wienburg's side, he does have 3 Surgical Extraction. That one makes the most sense. It's a spell. You're trying to trigger your Arclight Phoenixes. Does Kiihne have to do anything particular with his sideboard based off the fact that he expects to be surgical in the sideboard games?
I mean, I am confident that Wienburg understands that Surgical Extraction is not very good in this matchup. Surgical Extraction is great against Storm in combination with either a discard spell or a counter spell. If you need to be able to get that Past in Flames into the graveyard one way or another, and then follow that with a Surgical Extraction. But if you're just taking away like a Desperate Ritual or Serum Visions or something, it is not good.
Sure. So on Wienburg's side, his sideboard 2 Abrade, 4 Scab Clan Berserker. I think that's the one he's reaching for.
Yeah, that one is definitely coming in. Scab Clan Berserker acting as effectively a one-sided Eidolon of the Great Revel. I believe it also has haste. I think that card is quite good in the matchup and will definitely be coming in.
Yeah, haste renown threat from Magic Origins. But for the SCG Tour, we are at SCG Columbus this weekend, and here's the rest of our Season 1 schedule. Next week, we'll be in Worcester, Mass. Yeah. Playing an individual Modern Open.
Oh, yeah. I'm looking forward to that one. We're going to be covering that alongside you, actually. You and I, Matthias and Emma Handy, all bringing you that action. I do not love traveling to the city because there's no airport there. But it's a great venue, and a lot of great people show up.
We'll get by. We'll take a week off after that, then we'll go to Indianapolis the 26th and 27th for a Standard Open. That one was a Team Open, but we're bringing you some Standard. People like Standard right now, so
absolutely.
Check that one out. Then February 2nd and 3rd, we're in Baltimore for a Team Constructed Open. February 9th and 10th, the week after, Dallas, another Standard Open. March 2nd and 3rd, a little bit of a break before that. We'll be in Syracuse for the Legacy Open of this season.
Nice.
Definitely check that one out. The week after, the 9th, that's going to be the Regionals, the Modern Regional Championships. We talked about that earlier in the weekend. Those are always great tournaments. The 16th and 17th of March, we're in Philadelphia for another Modern Open. And then on the 23rd or 24th, Cincinnati for Team Constructed. That's going to be Standard Modern Legacy as opposed to the Team Modern this weekend.
Yep.
April 6th and 7th, back in Ohio again, Cleveland for a Modern Open. May 4th and 5th, Richmond for Standard. May 18th and 19th, Syracuse for Standard. And then a week after, the 25th and 26th, in Louisville for the Modern Open, all culminating SCGCON Summer, June 7th and 9th for the Invitational.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time. It's in Roanoke, my hometown. I love being able to attend tournaments that are 2 miles from my house where I get to sleep in my own bed. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, and you come out to these opens so you can get the unique open playmats for Standard Opens. This is the Botanic Growth by Victor Adame Minguez. And these are unique arts for these events. And in the Modern Opens, we have Star Crowned Angel by Greg Staples. And if you check out Legacy, you get Loftstone Citadel by Adam Paquette.
Yeah, this fantasy artwork, not based on any one Magic card, but heavily influenced by the fantasy genre. As you can see on the far left, the botanical growth is very reminiscent of the Simic clan, if I had to say so.
Right. I always get thrown because I think of Botanical Sanctum. Sure. When I hear the name for that one. But very Simic, absolutely. All these playmats are great. See that schedule online. Go to go.starcitygames.com/schedule. It's all there. Find an event near you. Come out for these. And you can come out for the Open, Classic, for the Infinite Challenges. Play as much Magic as you want on the weekend, or the Sealed Spectacular Package.
All right, we're going to head back down to the match here. See who takes down Game 2 between Zachary Kiihne and Ben Wienburg.
Kiihne will be on the play. Got beat up by some maximized velocities in Game 1. Starts with a snow-covered island. Here's a Serum Visions. Here to Wienburg's side. Here's a Mountain and Monastery Swiftspear. He'll connect for 1 here. Kiihne to 19.
All right, seems like we got an update here on the Evan Whitehouse judge call situation. Seems like Whitehouse forgot to decideboard 1 card out of his deck last round and received a warning. They basically took the draw out of his hand, and that was his hand. It was kind of effectively like a mulligan for the game.
Sure.
And they've changed a lot of the penalties for these type of infractions because they are such a feel bad when you just get a straight up game loss. And so I am a huge fan of this change. And even though Evan Whitehouse does lose that card, he still gets to play the game of Magic.
You want to talk about feel bads? Kiihne here had a second island for turn. Wienburg tried a Monastery Swissberry here turn, got remanded, made no second land drop. On Kiihne's side, he's got Scalding Tarn. Wienburg's going to play that Swiftspear again. It's going to get hit by a lightning bolt after Kiihne fetches to 18. We'll find out if Wienburg has found that second land, but he is not doing a lot in this game.
Yeah, I mean, even though you have a couple one-drops on the draw, this is not an ideal start for Wienburg. If he had peeled a second land as his first or second draw for the first few turns, I think his explosiveness would have been evident, and absolutely the reason why he kept. It's a little risky, but if he gets there, his hand is nuts.
Right. On Kiihne's side, he will play a Steam Vents down to 14. That's his fourth Mana Source. Feels a lot like a Gifts Ungiven. Wienburg has found that second mountain, and here's a Manamorphose. Storms at 1.
Yeah, no storm cards from Wienburg's side if I had to guess.
Right. Just the Arclight Phoenixes and the Prowess. Here's a Manamorphose. 2 red floating. Seems like the correct choice.
Yeah, a number of options here for Wienburg. With missing his second land drop for 2 turns straight, I can only assume that he has a bevy of choices here to choose from.
Right. I'd be surprised if there was a Faithless looting unless it was just picked up off a Manamorphose. Seems like you might want to try to find the land earlier. Ooh, third spell, though, is Tormenting Voice discarding Arclight Phoenix.
Yeah, that is very good here for Wienburg. That Monastery Swiftspear already up to 4 power. Arclight Phoenix coming back, a swing for 7. There's a lot of damage coming through.
Right, so Kiihne is going to go for that Gifts Ungiven, but yeah, he's just taking 7. He'll be going down to 7. His gifts pile, Past in Flames, Poetic Ritual, Desperate Ritual, Manamorphose, kind of the stock Ritual plus Past in Flames package. If the hand already has a mana creature, this could be over on Kiihne's turn.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the downside of playing a deck like Mono Red Phoenix. You don't have a ton of interaction. Your spells are mainly like Scab Clan Berserker or just being faster than your opponent. And in the scenario here where Wienburg missed a second land drop for 2 turns straight, you weren't faster.
Right.
Maybe. We'll see.
Wienburg decides to put the mana-adding rituals in the graveyard, so Past in Flames and Manamorphose to Kiihne's hand. But now the Manamorphose is a mana-making ritual. Here's Goblin Electromancer.
Yeah, there's still a little bit of work to do for Kiihne, but he might have it rolled up. Storm's going to be on 2. Going to float 2 mana here.
Manamorphose resolves. Picked up a Desperate Ritual. That ought to wrap things up. Couple rituals already in the graveyard. Past in Flames in hand. So here's Desperate Ritual. Red mana up to 4. Storm up to 3. Still has that untapped island. Spend 3 of that red mana on Past in Flames. Storm's at 4. Start casting some rituals out of the graveyard.
Yeah, you can basically just go up to 5 mana here for 1, casting these rituals.
Yep, there's Desperate Ritual.
Oh no, I'm stupid. It's way more.
You can go up to quite a bit, yeah. Poetic Ritual up to 5. Storm's at 6. Manamorphose. Storm's at 7. Split that. Make a couple blue mana. 4 red mana, 2 blue.
Yeah, and with the Gifts Ungiven in the graveyard, this is basically all she wrote. Gonna go get more rituals, more Past in Flames, more card draw, and then game's effectively over.
Yep, Gifts Ungiven is the cast. 1 blue, 2 red floating, and there's some check for Wienburg to see how Kiihne sideboarded, I suppose, though Kiihne will be wrapping this up. This Gifts Ungiven is again for the 3 ritual pile and a Grape Shot with the Past in Flames available for the flashback. No matter where you put the Grape Shot, Kiihne will be able to cast that. No shortage of mana on this turn.
I mean, he still has a stock graveyard, too. That's the thing.
Right.
He still has a Manamorphose at the ready at some point.
Yeah, so despite the sideboarding error, Evan Whitehouse up a game against Marshall Arthurs. On the back table, things are all tied up on Dredge versus Hexproof.
Yeah, very happy to see Whitehouse pulling through that effectively a free mulligan there and coming through anyway in spite of losing that card.
In some ways, I think it's a testament to how favored Ironworks is in the matchup.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we saw that exact matchup, Ironworks versus Marshall Arthur's Mono Red Phoenix, at the Invitational in the top 8, and it was a clean sweep, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Was not particularly tough. Bunch more rituals checking back in here. Storm's currently at 12, 4 red mana floating, a blue mana floating. The Past in Flames was flashed back, so the additional rituals were unlocked. There was a lightning bolt in the graveyard, and trivial for Kiihne to pull off that grape shot from here. Wienburg picks him up. We're going to go to a deciding game 3 here.
Yeah, I mean, I think game 1 was kind of a testament to the way that the Mono Red Phoenix can turn on a dime and kind of steal the game out of nowhere with things like maximized velocity. Game 2 was the sheer strength of Storm coming through with the Mono Red Phoenix stumbling just a little bit. The Storm deck able to pounce and take that game quite easily.
Yeah, looks like players are thinking about maybe re-sideboarding a little bit. There can be a song and dance about mana efficiency. But in the meantime, why don't you all check out the Star City Games newsletter. This is free to sign up for. Just go to go.starcitygames.com/newsletter. Get highlights for some of our best articles over at starcitygames.com. Dates and locations for the SCG Tour. Find out about invitational qualifiers near you, which will provide SCG points as we build towards the Players' Championship this year. Find a Star City Games game night year. You get those sleeves and tokens, and just get a bunch of great content, and it's free.
Yeah, a really excellent addition to the content that Star City Games generates. You get a lot of little kind of mini articles from some of our authors, not only maybe telling you what we would play during the tournaments this coming weekend, but highlighting a lot of really great pieces of content that our website provides, as well as a host of other useful information.
Right, let you know what you might have missed this week on the select side, give you a taste of premium as you see some Brian Gottlieb content there.
Yeah, one of the newer additions to the premium side of the StarCityGames.com website. Huge fan of his articles and a huge fan of the person.
Oh, yeah. And the game podcast.
Oh, yeah. Alongside Jerry Thompson, Brian Gottlieb has some really great insight into the game of Magic, and it is no real coincidence that he has skyrocketed all the way up to Star City Games premium status as a result.
Yeah, and Brian and Jerry, they'll be having their coverage debut January 25th, the SCG Indianapolis Standard Open that weekend.
Yeah, I'm going to be in attendance. I'm playing. I'm going to play some wild stuff. I'm going to break Nexus of Fate even more than it's already broken.
And we're underway for game number 3. Ben Wienburg will start us off, mounting into Soulscar Mage over on Kiihne's side, Island Sleight of Hand.
Yeah, Soulscar Mage, not the ideal one-drop, but there are certain scenarios where it is better than Monastery Swiftspear. If you need to basically shrink an opposing creature mid-combat via Lightning Bolt or Gut Shot, it does that job quite well with the Withering effect as its alternate ability besides Prowess.
Right. Wienburg is going to cast Tormenting Voice, discard a Mountain. Not the most exciting turn 2 as he comes in for 2 damage, Kiihne to 18. He's hoping to do quite a bit more on turn 3 because there's a pretty high odds that Kiihne will be.
Yeah, I think the real crux of this game is going to be on whether or not Kiihne has a mana-producing creature on the next turn or 2, and then it'll be on whether or not Wienburg has a Lightning Bolt to take care of it in response to the chain of rituals and such that are sure to come after.
Kiihne will set up a little bit more in his second turn. Spire Bluff Canal, Sleight of Hand, and a Serum Visions with 2 cards scried to the bottom, but a lot of looks at shaping up his turn 3 hand.
Yeah, his hand looks stacked right now. Discarding the land on the Tormenting Voice, I was afraid he might be a little flooded, but it looks like his hand is almost all spells. He could have a very explosive turn right now, but he also could still potentially leave himself with 1 mana and a Lightning Bolt on top to prevent the crazy combo stuff coming out of Kiihne next turn.
Mm-hmm. So Wienburg will start with 2 mana Morphoses, red both times. Shocker there. Mountain for turn.
Yeah, and this is just pushing further and further towards Wienburg hitting that Bedlam Reveler. Right now he's floating only 2 mana, but a couple rituals later, a couple more instant sorceries, gut shots, etc. for free, and we could see a Bedlam Reveler plus maximized velocity this turn.
Desperate Ritual here, up to 3 mana in the pool. Soulscar Mage up to a 4/5. He did drop a maximized velocity on the table. Like to get some creature to hasten up, though. Likely would have seen it already if it was a Swiftspear or a Soulscar Mage, just due to the nature of prowess. Surgical Extraction on Serum Visions. Don't see that one too often.
No, I think that's just a signifier that Bedlam Reveler is coming. That is not a particularly good play here. It does do 1 extra damage with Soulscar Mage, but unless he's dealing lethal, I don't love it. Or unless he's casting Bedlam Reveler.
Right.
Let me make sure that's clear.
Yeah. Win or Revel, but he'll drop to 18 for it. He does get a look at Kiihne's hand. We have a Scalding Tarn, a Lightning Bolt, Brawl, Chief of Compliance, Desperate Ritual, Past in Flames, Manamorphose, and a second Scalding Tarn.
Yeah, this is a pretty solid hand from Kiihne, to say the least. If this Brawl survives next turn, there's a chance we just go off.
Wienburg does get to know about it, so if there is a Lightning Bolt in hand, that might affect how he sequences things, but he definitely has to pay mind to that.
Yeah, my guess is that as long as Wienburg has 1 mana up and doesn't go for like a Bedlam Reveler this turn, he's probably going to wait a turn before he goes crazy. But it looks like Wienburg might just be going for the Jugular and hoping that Kiihne misses a Lightning Bolt to the head, followed by a Bedlam Reveler into maximized velocity.
Yeah, just discarding the maximized velocity, you still get to jumpstart it. So yeah, the Lightning Bolt, that knocks Kiihne to 15. Wienburg's going to look at 3 more cards here. No more red mana floating, but he does have that untapped mountain. Soulscar Mage currently a 6. The velocity would make it a 7. The Reveler could get +2. You'd be looking at 12 damage. It's not quite lethal. There is a jumpstart of the velocity. He'll discard a mountain for that. So that's 7, 11, 12 coming across. I believe Kiihne will be falling to 3 here.
Yeah, 3 life, and not a ton to work with. Like, he's going to have to get pretty lucky on his next turn to be able to straight up win. He goes Brawl, Chief of Compliance, spends 1 mana, casts Desperate Ritual, Manamorphose up to 4 mana, Passive Flames down to 1. He can Ritual and Manamorphose again, but that's not really digging for lethal.
Right. He needs a little help in the mana department and a bit more help in the payoff department.
Yeah. If he's able to hit another Ritual effect or potentially another Manamorphose, it could be all over here.
Yeah, so we'll start with Scalding Tarn. He'll go down to 2.
I guess it's all over one way or another.
Right. Somebody's losing. Here's Brawl. Here's Desperate Ritual. Storm's at 2. 3 red mana in the pool. Who's it going to be?
I suppose just an Empty the Warrens might be enough to save Kiihne this turn if that's all he has. As long as Wienburg doesn't have another copy of Lightning Bolt or potentially an Arclight Phoenix.
Manamorphose will bump Storm to 3, 2 blue and 2 red in the pool for Kiihne. Has 2 fresh cards since Wienburg's seen the hand.
I think those cards are Empty the Warrens and Gifts Ungiven, and I don't think that those are good enough. Gifts Ungiven would shrink him all the way down to 1 mana, and I believe Wienburg would hand him something like Manamorphose and a random spell that doesn't matter. If it's a Passive Flames, you know, he already has one, so it's not worthwhile. But here he goes with the Passive Flames, going to try to generate a little bit more mana here.
Yep, Past in Flames, put him down to 1 mana. Desperate Ritual back up to 3. Get that Storm counter updated. It's at 5.
Let's see what he can do here. This Manamorphose going to send him up a little more on mana 2.
And you're right, Gifts Ungiven, Empty the Warrens. Those are the holdings. Can make a good mix of goblins here. He's going to cast Sleight of Hand first, though. Grape Shot. Storm's at 7. Unfortunately, he tapped to a point where he can't Grape Shot and empty this turn.
Yeah, but that's okay. I think he'll probably keep Grape Shot and then just go for a big empty this turn and then try to combo out next turn. He does have that Passive Flames in the graveyard still. There's also, I mean, he could also potentially just go Bolt, Bedlam Reveler, Grape Shot, Bedlam Reveler, Soulscar Mage, and you for a little bit. But I think this Empty the Warrens play for a bajillion goblins. Cross your fingers that Ben Wienburg doesn't have an Arclight Phoenix or a Lightning Bolt, and see if it's good enough.
Well, it's not. Fiery Temper from Ben Wienburg. That's going to put this 2-1 in Wienburg's favor. Kiihne did what he could, 16 goblins. That is a lot, but he really just had the 1 turn to work with.
Yeah, I mean, that was a super fast start from Wienburg. We saw Zachary Kiihne with that turn 3 almost going off, though, and I think that really showcases the strength of this Storm deck that Kiihne is playing this weekend.
Yeah, definitely. And at the start of the match, I was thinking that the Mono Red Phoenix deck, we've seen it be pretty poor against Ironworks. I thought it might be similar for Storm, but the Storm mana base could be a big factor. The fact that you sometimes deal 3 damage to yourself can be a full turn.
I mean, I think the real key is adding more of these 1-drop prowess creatures and giving you a little bit more kick for a small amount of mana. I mean, we saw that game. Soulscar Mage effectively dealt 10 damage or so, if I'm not mistaken. There was one turn where it attacked for 7, another turn where it attacked for 1, and a turn where it attacked for 2. So about 10 damage or so for 1 mana is a pretty nice investment.
Cool element to their list as well. They're on 3 copies of Maximize Velocity, so you can give the Soulscar Mage haste if that's what you're up to. Then it's very close to a Monastery Swiftspear in that kind of situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think Maximize Velocity just adds a lot to the deck and giving you another cheap thing to use with Prowess, but also just a cool little trick with Bedlam Reveler where you can discard it, and then if you have the 1 mana floating afterwards, giving it haste and attacking for 5 is quite a bit of damage.
Right, and with the 3 Tormenting Voice, the 4 Faithless Looting, it's kind of trivial to pitch the Maximize Velocity if you don't have a Phoenix yet, and then you have that discard outlet just hanging out in your graveyard. So that's pretty nice. So we'll check in with the players when we get an opportunity to see how the other matchups are going. We know that Ben Wienburg has one. We know on the back table, Claire Bigelow and, well, actually we get an update. Claire Bigelow just closed the match. So the match is functionally over, but the match is still going.
That. Hold on.
Everything I say is either true or a lie.
I'm just going to sit here like this until the director tells me what to do.
Right. We're just going to sit tight here for a minute.
I'm just kidding.
So, yeah, sounds like we got an incorrect update. So we'll be getting you back into some live Magic, and then we do have Time Walk on the back burner as well for this round.
So we're not going to go to the Dredge, or sorry, was it Dredge versus Hexproof?
Hexproof.
We're not going to be watching that match until we do Time Shifted. So let's talk about the Evan Whitehouse Marshall Arthur's matchup. Kind of a repeat matchup from the top 8 of the Invitational. You think Marshall Arthur is having PTSD flashbacks of the bad things happening to him?
It's not a flashback if it's literally happening to you again.
Yeah, Whitehouse
it's actually a lot worse.
That's fair. Whitehouse was playing Dredge at the Invitational, has since switched to Ironworks. Clearly, top 8ing the Invitational, not good enough.
No. You always need
switch decks, always improving.
To ask for more.
Yeah.
What can you do better today?
You can generate a lot of mana and draw a lot of cards. That's what you can do better today.
Right, you can beat Mono Red Phoenix decks.
Yeah, I think the key factor for me is whenever I lose to a deck, I want to play it because I want to see just how good it is and figure out why I lost. Right. It's possible Whitehouse felt the same way, but also possible that the hate for Dredge is just better against Dredge than the hate is against the Ironworks deck, and both are insanely powerful strategies.
I mean, we looked at a lot of sideboards today that have been Leyline of the Void, Surgical Extraction, Tormod's Crypt. It's obviously Rest in Pieces in the field. Spirits is pretty popular. That stuff is really good against Dredge, and we've seen Psy Master Thopterus kind of wreck it all. But speaking of Psy Master Thopterus, let's go check in, see how this match is going. Marshall Arthur's Evan Whitehouse. Top 8 competitors from the Season 2 Invitational at SCGCON Winter here trying to get the top 8 at the Team Modern Open at SCG Columbus, the first weekend of 2019.
Yeah, notably Arthur's and Wienburg playing the same list. So these Scab Clan Berserkers, you've seen them before. How good are they here against Ironworks? We'll see.
Probably not bad. He has that Scab Clan Berserker. It got renowned. Already had a Bedlam Reveler and a Soulscar Mage. Here's a second Bedlam Reveler from Marshall Arthur's. He'll discard his card and draw 3. For Kiihne, or for Whitehouse rather, he does have Psy Master Thopterus online and 2 Scrap Trawlers, so it's a bit tough to deploy your cogs and make Thopterus as he's on 5 against that Scab Clan Berserker.
Yeah, I think Marshall Arthur's is getting some revenge here against this Ironworks deck that took him apart at the Invitational. But this is only game 2 and he's down a game, so even if he clinches this one, still has one more game to go.
Yeah, 2 Arclight Phoenixes were just added to the battlefield. This is a huge attack. There were 2 Thopters there. They're going to do some chump blocking.
Yeah, I think Whitehouse really needs to take care of this Scab-Cullen Berserker before he has any real chance of getting back into this game. If he already has something like Galvanic Blast or Lightning Bolt in hand, going to need to make sure that he's at least 3 life so he can kill this Scab-Cullen Berserker and then go off with an Ironworks.
Yep, so Soulscar Mage and Bedlam Reveler are coming across. The 2 Phoenixes are locked in, being blocked by Thopters. Those are legal blocks, and it looks like both Scrap Trawlers will jump in front of the 3 times pumped Prowess creatures.
Yeah, this looks like a whole lot of chump blocking. We're going to return a couple artifacts from the graveyard to hand, but deal no damage, and that means the Whitehouse still has a shot.
Priority 1 probably has to be getting this Berserker off the battlefield, right?
Yeah, I mean, it has to be some sort of removal spell. You know, and the Scab-Cullen Berserker is going to do some amount of damage to you in the meantime, so this start here from Arthur's looks to be pretty good, beating a Sidemaster Thopterus draw from the Ironworks opponent.
So Whitehouse will start with the Chromatic Sphere, makes a Thopter, takes 2.
Scoops him up.
Yeah, that looked like a check on the Berserker trigger.
Yeah, I don't think Whitehouse had access there to red mana outside of something like the Chromatic Sphere. And if Martial Arthurs actually misses that trigger, there's a chance that the Ironworks deck can dig out of it, but it was not to be.
Right. It's about all you can run in that situation, but it did not work out. This is the decider. We have the results on the other 2 tables. Turnbull took it over Bigelow, Dredge versus Hexproof. We saw Ben Wienburg Phoenix away Zach Kiihne's Storm. This is it. Game 3 of Ironworks versus Mono Red Phoenix. Evan Whitehouse will be on the play. And in general, his deck, very consistent on turn 4. Pretty darn, you have some turn 3s. You have enough of them where it is a problem and it's notable off of Mox Opal and Mindstone. On Arthur's side, I think things are going to get a little bit worse for him going into the 3rd game on the draw because it's harder to connect and renown your Scab Clan Berserkers.
Yeah, especially if the Ironworks deck is on the Sidemaster Thopterus after sideboard plan, which seems like they are. That card checks Arclight Phoenix pretty well. It checks the deck in general very well. The only card that's really problematic after that is Scab Clan Berserker because it deals you damage outside of combat.
Yeah, so we will take a look at the players' sideboards as we are just coming into this match, and it looks like they are reevaluating things. For Martial Arthurs, maybe he has some play-draw changes. His sideboard, he has 2 Abrades, he has those 4 Scab-Clan Berserkers, 3 Rending Volleys, 3 Surgical Extraction, 3 Blood Moons. How do you feel about Rending Volley and Surgical Extraction in this matchup?
Well, we saw in the other matchup, Storm versus Phoenix, that Wienburg brought in Surgical Extraction even though they weren't particularly devastating. I think that could also be the case here against the Ironworks deck. You know, Surgical Extraction, not really a knockout blow like something like Rest in Peace or Leyline of the Void would be, but much harder for the Ironworks deck to interact with, and sometimes you snipe them at just the right spot.
Also just 0 mana spell.
Yes, 0 mana spell also not bad. I have played my fair share of Corrosive Gale.
Do you want to try to Rending Volley a Sai?
I mean, that's certainly an option. Rending Volley is actually starting to see a little bit of a resurgence in sideboards in Modern just because of how powerful Sidemaster Thopterus is, especially in archetypes that are a little weak to the 1/4 Thopterus.
We've seen it against the Is It Phoenix builds as well. Crackling Drake, Thing in the Ice. Part of why you see that card, we haven't really seen too much Rending Volley since Splinter Twin was banned. I know Ross Miriam has been advocating for it for the Is It mirror, and also with that marginal value against Sai as well.
Yeah, and the thing about Rending Volley is that it's a very narrow sideboard card, but the fact that it can target either blue creatures or white creatures means that it actually is solid against decks like humans and spirits as well.
You might have noticed a significant jump in the round timer there. If you recall, our match started with a judge call. So these players do have an extension, a little over 20 minutes for their game 3 here.
Should be more than enough.
Right. Both decks pretty fast. The Ironworks deck can spin its tires a lot, but it usually means it's winning that turn.
Right.
So they'll draw up their opening hands. Martial Arthurs did win game number 2, so Evan Whitehouse is on the play here.
Yeah, Arthur's consulting Wienburg here on this mulligan. They are both playing the same deck. I'm sure that Wienburg has played against Ironworks a number of times with the archetype, and 2 heads are better than 1 when it comes to playing against this monstrosity that is Ironworks.
Got to figure the most important thing they're evaluating looking at this opener on the draw is what turn is this hand capable of winning on?
Yeah, and if the answer is 5 or more, I throw it back 100%. I think you really need to get on the battlefield quickly with a 1-drop, whether that's Soulscar Mage or Monastery Swiftspear is completely irrelevant. Both of them do a pretty sizable chunk of damage. And then you really need to start following that up with some sort of, spinning the wheels and trying to dig towards Arclight Phoenix or Bedlam Reveler so you can effectively win on turn 4.
Arthur's does take a mulligan there. It's probably a number of hands. I know that when you play with these decks where you just think, man, if there was a Faithless Looting here, I'm off to the races. And those are the speculative ones. Sometimes you trick yourself into keeping on the draw.
Oh, for sure. I mean, any Faithless Looting deck is going to be significantly better when they have Faithless Looting in their opening hand. And, you can sometimes keep a hand without Faithless Looting the same way you can sometimes keep a hand without an Infect Creature.
Right.
And it can work out. You can draw the Infect Creature. You can draw the pieces of your deck that function without it. In fact, notably a little bit worse without an Infect Creature. But, these Monastery Phoenix's deck are built for maximum redundancy. They have effectively 7 of these same 1-drop creature. They have Tormenting Voice, Faithless Looting. They have Arclight Phoenix as the one big payoff card.
Arthur's did decide to keep on 6. He scried to the top. Whitehouse started with the Grove of the Burnwillows and a Terrarian. Arthur has played a Mountain and a Monastery Swiftspear, knocked Whitehouse to 19. Now Whitehouse has played a second Grove, and here is a Mind Stone into Chromatic Star. A lot of artifacts, and here's a Mox Opal as well on turn 2.
Yeah, that's a very strong start from Whitehouse. Let's see if he can follow that up with an Ironworks next turn and win as early as turn 3 this game.
It's a Mountain for Arthur's, but no pre-combat spells. Just an attack for 1 from the Swiftspear, perhaps signaling in a Braid?
Yeah, and a Braid here is potentially viable, though a Braid and other Shatter effects are notoriously bad at stifling the Ironworks deck's development. Doesn't really target much in the way of the artifacts early in the game. You can maybe knock out a Mind Stone or a Mox Opal, but you really want to save that for Ironworks and hope that they can't kill you on the same turn, even through that Ancient Grudge or a Braid, and sometimes it's just not enough.
Right. It's definitely weird to turn 1 Monastery Swiftspear, turn 2 just cast no spells in your 1 and 2 mana spell deck. So Whitehouse is likely paying mind to that as he starts with the basic forest. He'll crack the Terrarian, make a blue and a green.
Yeah, my guess, holding up a Braid, if Whitehouse doesn't play an Ironworks during the end step, my guess is Marge Arthurs will probably pop off that Mox Opal just as a way to utilize his mana and maybe stifle the mana development from Ironworks.
Whitehouse thinking about using that green mana. Instead, he's going to activate his Mox Opal, make some red here. Now we'll sacrifice the Chromatic Star.
All right, well, cycling these Terrarians and Chromatic Star means that he does not have the Ironworks, or he would be saving them to use them as food to generate mana while drawing cards. My guess, just digging for something like Sidemaster Thopterus or something else to do. Has mana, nothing really to do with it.
Reaches for his green and red. Here's Ichor Wellspring, not exactly a payoff. He'll draw a card for that.
Yep. Pass turn here, and
it just passes with blue floating. Arthur's end step casts Manamorphose just to cycle that, and we're back to his turn.
Yeah, has to be holding up something here. The Abrade is probably just going to stone target only Karkline Ironworks in hopes that it's enough to keep the deck from winning that turn. Using the Manamorphose basically just to filter over his next few draw steps to try to hit like an extra land, maybe necessary to cast 2 spells in the same turn.
Once again, here comes Monastery Swiftspear. No pre-combat spells. Whitehouse will take that to 17, and Soulscar Mage is added to the battlefield for Arthur's post-combat.
Yeah, the scary part here for Arthur's is that he's holding up a Braid for them. I mean, more than likely, he's holding up a Braid. He's been holding up a Braid for the last 2 turns. There's a chance that a Braid does nothing.
Right.
And he has wasted so much time not casting other spells that could be used to pump his creatures. but let's see if it pays off for him.
Yeah, so Whitehouse starts with Terrarion, and here's Krark Clan Ironworks tapping out, but of course, once that's on the battlefield, he will have no shortage of mana. We'll see how he starts here, and we'll find out if Arthurs has that Abrade and what it amounts to.
It's also possible he has a Braid plus Surgical Extraction, which would be a good 1-2 punch for getting rid of the Ironworks and ensuring that another Ironworks can't come down on the same turn, which is usually how the Ironworks deck beats you. You play the Ironworks, you try to Ancient Grudge it or Braid it. They sacrifice a bunch of artifacts, generate a bunch of colorless mana, and then you're still able to just find another Ironworks off all the card draw and still have a bunch of floating.
Whitehouse starts by sacrificing Terrarion with the draw trigger on the stack. Arthurs does fire off a Braid on that Krark Clan Ironworks. Action back to Whitehouse, see how much mana he wants to make in response. He'll sacrifice Mox Opal, up to 4 mana floating. He'll sacrifice the Ironworks itself, up to 6. So now we do still have that draw trigger from Terrarion on the stack, and we'll find out if Arthurs has that Surgical Extraction, like you said, and he does. So that's targeting Krark Clan Ironworks. That is bad news when the namesake card in your deck is exiled.
Yeah, absolutely, and there's a lot of things on the stack, so this instant speed takeaway of the Ironworks is going to be pretty good here, and even stripping one from the hand.
Wow.
This is why he was sitting back. This is why he was playing patiently, and it looks like it's paying off big time.
Oh, yeah. And Whitehouse was that from the hand. The hand, he has, looks like a couple of Scrap Trawlers. That is going to be rough. So the Surgical does resolve. Presumably all 4 Ironworks are still going to be there, but they are gone now.
Yeah, no more access to Ironworks means Whitehouse has effectively resigned to winning the game the fair way with Sidemaster Thopterist, which can still be done. He still had a high life total, but I suspect that now that Marshall Arthurs doesn't have to sit back on that Abrade, he's going to go ballistic over the next 2 turns.
You saw Arthur's double check there. He tracked down 3 Krark Clan Ironworks. Looks like he has confirmed that Whitehouse did board one out, but that is an important one to double check.
I tend to ask my opponent, where's the other one?
Right, just show me.
Are there only 3?
Yeah.
So can I stop looking, please?
Just show me the one that's in your sideboard. Save us all some time. All right, so we do resolve that draw trigger off of the Terrarion. And with that 6 mana floating, here's the 2 Scrap Trawlers. And we're back to Marshall Arthurs.
Yeah, that combination of a Braid plus Surgical Extraction has done wonders here for Marshall Arthurs, giving him the shot he needed to potentially steal this game from Ironworks, a notoriously bad matchup for this Mono-Red Phoenix deck.
Second Soulscar Mage, no good attacks, though, against these Scrap Trawlers, so pass this thing back to Evan Whitehouse. Probably looking mostly just for Psy here, right?
Yeah, I mean, outside of, like, looping Spine of Ishsa somehow with Sidemaster Thopterist, there's not going to be a lot of ways for... wow.
How do you feel about Engineered Explosives on 1?
How do you feel about battling with Scrap Trawlers?
Like
I'm feeling pretty good.
3 mana Plague Wind, connect for 6. Arthur goes to 12. Nice draw step. Here's
yes.
Scab Clan Berserker. That'll connect for 2. Whitehouse to 15. That's renowned, though it's not clear that Arthurs is winning the race against the Scrap Trawlers yet.
No, and there's a chance, unless he draws something like Bedlam Reveler next turn, he might actually have to... oh, I didn't even think about that. The Scrap Trawlers aren't turned off. They're just not nearly as good without Ironworks. Any, Chromatic Star can get back something like Engineered Explosives. So the Explosives can still technically get up to 3 if you have enough mana to take care of the Scab Clan Berserker. But that would, in turn, knock out the Scrap Trawlers themselves, so he has to be careful in that.
Yeah, a lot going on heads up between these 2 things. I will say, though, that Engineered Explosives will stop Arthurs from building up more of those 1 mana prowess creatures. So Whitehouse does crack that Mind Stone, picks up 2 artifacts from his graveyard. Though he's not too invested in casting these cheap artifacts into that Berserker.
Yeah, I wouldn't be either. I think you just keep chugging along with these Scrap Trawlers. You don't want to deal yourself too much damage and put yourself into maximized velocity range from something like a Bedlam Reveler. Things can get hairy in a hurry, as we saw in Game 1.
Life totals where they are. Arthur's is at 12, the 2 scrap trawlers, assuming consecutive turns of successful hits. That's 6 plus 6. Arthur is, of course, able to cast instants and sorceries without taking damage. Some kind of judge call going on here. Interaction between Mind Stone and Scrap Trawler. We'll let you know exactly how that shapes up. It looks like the question is, do you have to target what you grab with the Trawler before you draw the card in the Mind Stone?
Yes.
So that's all based on how the cards are templated. It should be a fairly open and shut judge call.
I am fairly confident you have to choose the target first because the activated ability cost is 1 sacrifice. That'll put the scrap trawlers onto the stack, and those will resolve before the card draw of the Mind Stone, as far as I'm concerned of how I read the cards.
Right. And Ironworks presents some weird rules things pertaining to mana abilities, but these are all just value abilities. You know, you draw a card. There's nothing tricky with Ironworks happening here. You're not using the mana ability of anything. So I think that what you're saying is right.
Yeah, there's also a potential that there was like an out-of-order sequencing there that we just missed, and they're trying to clear that up. You know, we'll get it figured out here in just a minute. But in the meantime, let's talk about something great.
Magic?
Let's talk about StarCGames.com Players Championship.
That is something great.
Yeah. My vote is that we don't have a slide for it. Never mind.
We can still talk about it. We can still talk about it.
All right. So the Players Championship was one of my favorite tournaments I ever played in. I played in it twice out of the 3 years we did it. I was very sad when it was gone. It was gone for 2 years, and by popular demand, it is returned.
The people have spoken.
I cannot wait to cover it. I've been there twice as a player, and this year I'm just hoping that Cedric lets me cover it.
That is a delightful tournament to cover. It's just all very serious competitors, very intimate setting, which is really fun. High stakes, also always great.
Absolutely, and the narratives that are generated throughout the year of players trying to, really dig into the grind, going all over the country trying to play in these events and accruing points, all in an attempt for glory and attaining that coveted Players Championship spot. It made for some really fun trips and some really stressful times. I'm very much looking forward to seeing this new generation of players, the John Rossums of the world, to see if they're up to the task.
Oh, it definitely. Judge call got a little messy there, so we're going to pull back. They're going to do their thing. In the judge staff we trust. The Players' Championship, though, there's 2 examples that come to mind for me for the most relaxed and fun, chill environments for covering tournaments. Mm-hmm. Players' Championship, I got to cover one back in 2016, and the Invitational Season 2 last season, actually, when everyone got stormed out, and it was literally just the top 8 playing.
Yeah.
And so we're over doing commentary, and they just are blasting lo-fi music in the feature match area so they can't hear us talking. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was really sweet. Aside from almost destroying my car on the way over to the venue because there was about 12 inches of unplowed snow on the roads, it was great.
I had a really funny morning because I'm coming from Minnesota, right?
Yeah.
So I wake up about an hour before I need to be there. I look out the window. Snow's coming down. You can see. And I just think, this is fine. This is snow. This is winter. And then I take a shower. I'm just thinking about it more. And I'm just like, that's probably not fine at all.
Yeah, the problem is always about infrastructure. And we didn't really have the infrastructure to handle such, I would say, a medium-sized snowstorm. But, yeah.
All right, so we do have an update on our judge call. We'll take you back to the match here. It looks like the Mind Stone, based on the sequencing here, ended up being a miss trigger for the Scrap Trawlers. Whitehouse drew his card and had not targeted for the Scrap Trawler yet. So he's going to miss those triggers here, which is a pretty unfortunate circumstance.
Yeah, missing out on those 2 cards here could end up being a huge turning point in this game. But if you're going to play a deck like Ironworks, you need to know the sequencing, and here Evan Whitehouse a little bit punished for that, though I still think he's in a pretty good shape to win this game. Yeah,
he'll attack for 6 with those 2 Scrap Trawlers. It'll bump Arthur's down to 6. Plays Darksteel Citadel for the turn. Not going to play anything into that Scab Clan Berserkle as we go back to Arthur's turn. He'll start with a Tormenting Voice, discarding Mountain. Draw 2.
If I'm not mistaken, Scab Clan Berserker actually a one-sided effect, whereas Idol on the Great Revel is a dual-sided effect.
Yes.
So this Tormenting Voice, all these spells that he plays are not going to hurt him. I've seen a lot of people argue about potentially playing Idol on the Great Revel in the sideboard of this Mono Red Phoenix deck, but here doesn't look like it would be too good.
No, from 6 you would not want to be casting spells into your own Eidolon, but pretty comfortable with the Berserker as he does attack for 3, bumping Whitehouse to 12. No follow-up outside of a 4th Mountain post-combat. Still looking for a Bedlam Reveler, though the graveyard is full of creatures. That would still cost more than 2 mana even if he had one.
Yeah, I believe he only has 4 instant sorcerers in the graveyard. This attack has to mean Lightning Bolt.
Yeah, 2 Trawlers come across. Arthur's is going to Lightning Bolt one of the Trawlers so as to not take lethal damage.
Yeah, and as long as he's able to clean up these 2 Scrap Trawlers, there aren't a whole lot of really scary things left that Evan Whitehouse can put onto the battlefield. Sure, he's going to be at 3 life, but that's not super consequential unless Whitehouse is able to assemble a Psy Master Thopterus, and every artifact he plays will end up dealing him 2 damage.
Right. Yeah, remember that the Ironworks, they have been surgical, so Whitehouse is working with a pretty limited deck. Does get the 2 Scrap Trawler triggers there, looking at Mox Opal and Engineered Explosives.
Yeah. So what Whitehouse could actually do here, play Mox Opal, go to 10. Use Grove of the Burn Willows, Forest, and Mox Opal to play Engineered Explosives for X equals 3. And then at any point he needs to resolve, he can resolve the ability to shrink the Scab Clan Berserker.
So there was the Mox Opal. Ooh, and here is Psy Master Thopterist. That was a fortunate draw.
Yeah, needed that Mox Opal there in order to play Psy Master Thopterus. So was unable to get the Thopter from it, but still able to get onto the battlefield here.
We'll see how much life he wants to invest into making Thopters. Got to figure he'll make at least 1 here, as there is another Mox Opal. That'll mean a Berserker trigger and a Thopter trigger.
Yeah, here it's imperative that Arthur's remembers his triggers.
Yeah, we'll make sure that these life totals are correct here. Yeah, so we just were slow on some updates there, but both triggers were remembered. Whitehouse is at 8 from that Berserker.
Yeah, and he's staring down a fairly scary battlefield. If he has something like Running Volley to take care of the Psy Master Thopterus, might be okay. But it looks like he's passing the turn here, and we're getting the activation of Psy Master Thopterus at the EOT.
Yep, and here's a sacrifice of 2 artifacts. Looks like Darksteel Citadel and Ichor Wellspring. That'll draw 2 cards.
Yeah,
and there's still 1 Scrap Trawler.
Yeah, and that's going to draw a card from the Psy's ability, draw a card from the Ichor Wellspring's ability, as well as return something with the Scrap Trawler.
Chromatic Star looks to be the find. So he'll pick that one up as we head back his way after he draws his 2 cards. Doesn't quite have a lethal attack as Arthur's has hung back that Berserker, but he's definitely sending the Scrap Trawler here.
Yeah, I like sending the Scrap Trawler. That'll basically unlock your Psy Master Thopterus to go ballistic. And if he doesn't have a burn spell, he's basically forced to block.
And there is the block, so the Scrap Trawler will trade with the Berserker. Whitehouse picks up Ichor Wellspring, and you're about to see a lot of Thopters.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, he also returned to Mox Opal last turn, so he gets a free mana off of the 1 in play, plays another one from hand. And he's going to put well more than 3 power. Well, finds a Galvanic Blast.
How about a Lethal Burn spell?
That's
Arthur shows 2 mountains in the hand. Evan Whitehouse going to take it down 2-1. Turnbull, Whitehouse, and Kiihne take the match. They're advancing to 12-2 as we have just 1 round to go here at the